Hello Internet, so nice to see you. Today I have a question for you. What is the feeling of one note? This is a C note. What feeling this note gives to you? Well, yes, this is a kind of a Zen question. It's pretty much like that famous Zen question of what is the sound of one hand clapping? And one of the points of this Zen question is that there is no sound until you have two hands clapping together. In the same way, the C note by itself, without a context, has no meaning or no feeling. Just this note, just this frequency, is not enough to give us any kind of feeling. Well, at least this is what happens to our Western ears, or our Western way of listening to music. I have honestly no hard data on what happens psychologically to somebody who is not a listener in the Western tradition. But if you know something about that, please write it in the comment. I will be interested in that. Anyway, at least for all of us who have been born and raised immersed in Western music, what happens is that the meaning of the note depends on the context of the note. So for instance, you can create a feeling for this note if we play this C note against a chord. So for instance, the C note has a definite feeling if I play it against a C major chord. But the same note has a different feeling if I play it against an A minor chord, for instance. Or if I play it against an A flat chord. Or say, against an F minor chord. In all those examples, the C note is consonant inside that chord, but we don't have to limit ourselves to consonances. So for instance, here's the C note against the F sharp minor chord. Or against the D minor chord. Or against the B flat chord. The top note in all those examples is the very same C note, but this C note acquires a different feeling because we change the harmonic background over which we play it. Now, this observation, this perceptual phenomenon, if you want, that the very same note feels different to us if played against different chords, seems so natural and so obvious, at least to us musicians, that you would guess that there is a name for it in the literature, but nope, I couldn't find any name that describes specifically this concept. I mean, some people, like guitar players, try to use the word interval to indicate this concept, but that's not technically correct because the word interval refers to the distance between two notes, while here we're talking about how a note and a chord interact to create feeling. Other people try to use the word degree to indicate this very same concept, but degree refers to the position of a note inside a scale and not how this note interacts with a chord. On the other hand, I've heard a name for it, and this name is modulating pitch function, and I really like this name because it refers exactly to the fact that the function of the note changes with changing chord. I've heard this name from guitar player Tom Hess, and as far as I know, this name is original to him. Now, before we go ahead, let me also say that this is not a pedal note. What is a pedal note? Well, a pedal note is a note held through several chords, like this. So here I'm holding the G note through several chords, and the pedal has the specific requirement that this note need to be consonant with the first and possibly the last chord over which I play it. Indeed, a pedal is just a technique to smuggle in a dissonance inside my chord progression. See, this G note is consonant on the first chord E minor, it's also consonant on the second chord C, it's dissonant though on the third chord which is D, and it's dissonant too over the last chord A, and then I'm playing another E minor to round up the pedal. So, since I hold this note through several chords and it started as a consonant note, now your ear accepts it even when I play it over the dissonant chord. But the modulating pitch function is not that. The modulating pitch function is not a technique, that's the point. It's the principle that makes this work. The modulating pitch function is the principle that if you change the chord, the note changes meaning, and that's what makes the pedal interesting. In other words, the modulating pitch function is why the pedal works, it's not the technique per se. Also, I can apply the modulating pitch function regardless of consonants, because the point of the modulating pitch function is not to smuggle in a dissonance. The point of modulating pitch function is realizing that the very same note can feel completely different depending on the context. And those feelings are not all easy or good or comforting. For instance, hear that. That's a C note. And hear how this note feels right now. Or hear it now. Or now. So the pedal is a recipe, if you want, which goes this way. If you want a note to sound nice even on a chord where it's dissonant, then play this note on a previous chord where this note is consonant and then change the chord but hold the note. Modulating pitch function, on the other hand, tells you these notes sound different depending on the chord. Now you decide what are the feelings you want to express with music. Modulating pitch function is just a description, if you want, and a principle that you can use in your music. And it makes no judgment whatsoever about consonance, dissonance, on what you can or cannot play or should not play. One application of the modulating pitch function principle is ear training. For instance, modulating pitch function tells you that if you play a ninth over a minor chord, the feeling will always be the same, because the only important thing is not if the note is a C, a D, or an E. The important thing is that the relationship between the note and the chord stays the same. So for my C note, if I play a B flat minor, then the C note is a ninth above the minor chord. I could do this with any other minor chord and any other note as long as the note is a ninth over the chord, and it will still sound the same. But, Tommaso, somebody will say, isn't this exactly the interval? I mean, you just told us that the important thing is that the note is a ninth above the chord. Isn't that the interval of the note with the root? Well, that's just one aspect of the relationship, because at the risk of sounding obvious, if you play a ninth over a minor chord, it does not sound the same as if you play a ninth over a major chord or a ninth over a diminished chord or any other kind of chord. So the important point is not just the interval, but also the quality of the chord. That's why the word interval is, technically at least, not enough to describe the relationship. If I play my C note above a B flat major chord, respect to a minor chord, the feeling of the note is completely different. Listen to this. That's a C over a B flat minor. And that's a C over a B flat major. The feeling that your brain assigns to this C note is completely different in those two situations. So the interval is just not enough to describe it. But here's the good thing. If you spend some time understanding the feeling that this C note gives you over a B flat minor chord, then if you get the very same feeling in any other kind of musical situation, you know that it comes from a note played a ninth above a minor chord. And this is a great way to do ear training, because it doesn't educate your ear only to recognize interval. It also tells you what kind of feelings are involved with that, what kind of sensation you give to your listener. And this helps a lot in taking music out of just theory and technique and make it an art. So here are my suggestions to people who really want to understand music. Spend some time playing the C note and changing the chord under it. And then take a big piece of paper, and every time you play the C note and the chord under it, write what chord you played, the relationship between the note and the chord, so if the chord was major or minor, and the interval of the note with the root, and then on the side, write what kind of feeling this combination gives you. At the beginning, it's hard to come up with precise words. But if you stick to it, you'll find that you can be remarkably precise of how every pair of chord and note sound. If you really take the time to identify and verbalize those feelings, you'll find that the combination of note and chord gets indelibly impressed in your brain, and then it's much, much easier to train your ears. It seems like a strange exercise, and it's different than most exercise that you see in music theory, but I think this is one of the most important exercises you can do. This is actual ear training. I mean, as opposed to have an application playing you random intervals and you identifying it, which takes forever and doesn't really teach you anything about the artistic part of music. But to each its own. To do this exercise, it pays if you really know your fretboard and you know how to play any chord in multiple positions on your fretboard without thinking too much. If you want to really learn the fretboard of your guitar and understand harmony at a completely different level, that is not just technical but also artistic, I would recommend you guys check out the Complete Chord Mastery Guitar course. This is not a book, it's a complete video course designed to take guitar players and make them harmonic powerhouses. This course is not for you if you just want to read some theory and never practice it. This course is for you if you want to read and practice your theory. If you're willing to spend some time, some fun times, doing exercise that will make you a better musician and that teach you a lot of new sounds and harmonies on your guitar. I don't believe in abstract music theory, and I designed this course for the working musician to make practical music theory for people who want to apply and want to write music or play music and not just talk about it. If you have a minute, check out the Complete Chord Mastery course at this link. If you like this video, smash on that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and click on notification, otherwise YouTube will not tell you when I put up a new video. And if you have any comment, feedback, or whatever you want to write me, just write them down in the comments. I like reading from you guys, and I'm taking your suggestions and making more videos. This is Tommaso Zilio of musictheoryforguitar.com, and until next time, enjoy.